there hasn't been a lot of things that are new, and seeing the innovations of what we're doing with this is just now blowing my mind. Let's take a look real quick by shutting the lights off, Ryan, and I'm going to tell the story about this guitar real fast. It's pretty close to my heart, and I mentioned it on my own Facebook page. And not to go down any kind of bad roads, and you've heard me talk about my brother before, but he's my late brother that actually passed away in a Porsche many years ago. Go ahead and turn the lights off. We're going to get a better view of this guitar. I was up at the Peterson Museum and ran into John Oates, who saw me looking at the Gemund, which was the first old 356 Porsche to get entered in Le Mans. There was two that entered, from what I understand, and one crashed and the other one went on to win Le Mans. So it's a very famous car at the Peterson Museum. John sees me looking at the car and says, "Oh, you know this car?" I said, "Yeah, my buddy Rod Emory, my old neighbor, he built it." And so he was on Jay Leno's garage, and I recognized John Oates, and I'm going, "Wow, this guy, what's he doing talking to me?" It's the first time I've met him. And he said, "Hey, can I grab your picture?" I said, "Yeah." So we take a picture together, and he sends it to Rod. It was only minutes later that I actually ended up talking to Rod and going to his new shop in Hollywood, which is just unbelievable. Rod is a craftsman, he's a true artist, and just a really cool guy. He's got a great group of people over there that build the most prestigious 356s I've ever seen. It's a connoisseur type vehicle, and he's modified so many things from the engine block all the way to the suspension, braking. I mean, you name it, Rod's really had his hand in it. Well, our old neighbors, the Emorys, his dad also sold Porsche parts, and my father, Frank Monnig, actually restored an old 912. This was the car that was sprayed with House of Color Euro Red and was restored. I've driven the car. My brother was driving the car and was down at Cook's Corner, which we lived in this really crazy canyon road. He was coming back and he lost control of the car. He did have somebody else in the car, his friend who walked, but they cut the car in half. He died instantly hitting an oak tree because of the short wheelbase of that car and the way it turned. He just got away from him for 1 second. So very sad story to me, and also a good story. And this happened so long ago, and I do like still talking about it, I like remembering my brother. But many don't know that he's the whole reason that we almost do what we do here at Coast Airbrush. When I got the call, I was with my girlfriend, who's now my wife at the time, and my dad, and we were at the Vargas Awards and Getaway out on the East Coast. To get that call was gut-wrenching at 3 in the morning after we had such an amazing night. Well, this is a great story. I love telling this story. Craig Frazier found me, who was rooming with my dad, and found me and calmed me down. And when we all got back here to the States, my good friend Noah did a portrait of my brother, which I had planned to kind of show here tonight, and I think I maybe will toward the end. I'll go ahead and show you guys this wonderful portrait that Noah did that was at his funeral, which was right across the street from Coast Airbrush at the St. Boniface Church. The synergy and the amount of people that came to this were just mind-boggling. I mean, so many people really were there for us, and all the artists that we had known. Craig Frazier then agreed to come back down to Coast as I wanted to repaint my brother's jet ski, which I'll show you guys behind here. It was destroyed. The engine, the nose was off, because he was a real hardcore guy. And Craig Frazier was dying to show me the way he was using candies and these urethanes back in the day in a way that nobody else was. So as the story goes, when we started working on it, and then another artist friend of ours who was an early customer, Steve Van Diemen, we all had this camaraderie. We started working on it, and I was blown away at what Craig was showing me. Absolutely just going, wow, I can market this. So I went to, at the time, owner of House of Color, John Kosmosky, and asked him for permission to use his paints in small quantity, and that I would put them in level 5 floor sealed squeeze bottles, and we would represent them at the utmost. And John gave us the permission and said, wow, you kids are crazy. I'm good with it. And it led to what we see today with so many of the templates from Art Tool and the books that Craig Frazier's written and the contributions of Airbrush Action Magazine, which unfortunately is no longer with us, but the DVDs, VHS, and the many, many seminars and paint clinics that we've done here at Coast Airbrush and abroad. So we'd like to think that we've contributed in such a way, but I'd really like to honor my brother and dedicate this guitar to him. Gosh, I almost get a little teared up right there. Thinking about him and the life that it's given my family, my employees, and many, many artists. Every time I see another automotive paint job with candies on it, or something that's come of my brother's death, from that moment when I really believed in what Craig Frazier was doing on that jet ski, it was a life-changing element for me. And so when I talk every week on these live feeds and I tell you guys how close to my heart this really is and how much effort I put into it, it's because every day I get to remember my brother. And I know there's been a lot of other people that have reached out to me that have lost their family members and have almost similar stories of just great connect. So I want to leave tonight's live feed on that note, that this is a great thing, that it's because of his death that it opened doors, and that although his life ending was very tragic for me, and there isn't almost a day it doesn't go by I don't think about him. I have his picture of me and him when we were little kids in my kitchen. And when I get home from work every day in my garage, I have a picture of him on my refrigerator out there, and I say, hey, I love you, bro. So, you know, it's odd how sometimes things happen. But the people I've met and the places I've been, going into be 48 years old this May, have been just incredible. And that's how I appreciate this so much, when you guys give us your orders and you talk great about Coast Airbrush and what we stand for in the industry. So I dedicate this guitar that my good friend Rhino since 7th grade was able to actually airbrush and paint on with me, doing this job with the Lumilor. And I dedicate it to the Emory family, who's been there for us, and awesome people and great builders of the industry. And I dedicate it to John Oates for just happened to be there at that moment in time. It's almost as if it was just completely meant to be. So there was some problems with me getting this thing done on time. It's going to go off to the Concours d'Elegance, and it's going to raise a bunch of money, hopefully, for a very good charitable cause that helps the elderly, hopefully one day when I'm old. So, you know, we're often don't think of the elderly that much, and some of our veterans and things like that, as people tend to get older and forgotten about. So I know as I'm heading into those years, I hope that somebody's out there looking out for me and raising money. So that's what we're really proud to be a part of, what goes on at the Concours, and the prestigious you know, people that bid on these things and donate their money to a good cause. And I hope this guitar ends up getting assembled, put out there, and auctioned off with the utmost respect for what it stands for and what it's behind. The people at the Concours are sharing my story. When I told it to them, and kind of not in confidence, but they were just like, wow. And the connection they have with with Rod Emory, it was just like one of those projects that's once in a lifetime to me, that is going to mean so much down the road. So I don't mean to get too you know, emotional with everybody here tonight, but painting is emotional. That's why a lot of us do it, and it's a form of expression. The joy that I have of working on these things, and the joy I have helping you guys, our customers, is it's a gift. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the lights here real quick. I'll make mention again of our Lumilor, which I believe in. And one of the things that we did here is we did have the emblem of the Concours on the back that you guys can see. So for the people that are watching over there, Chris Brewer, if you're watching tonight, that is your logo. This is the actual color that was used on John Oates 356 Porsche that we'll be showing there. So very, very awesome job by Rhino. This was an image that John Oates provided for us. And my idea from him was, and he just happened to have the photos, was to do an electrical scene that was kind of lighting up the car. But we felt that was a little bit corny at the time, so I said, let's just work with the natural highlights that were in the beautiful photographs that were provided, and kind of do almost like a you know, like a turning into night, like a dusk kind of scene with the road behind it. So it might be hard for the camera to see it, but we're going to go ahead and shut the lights off now. As you guys can see, some of the other Lumilor projects here that are just kind of flashing about and around in the background. So many things can be done with this product, and I truly believe in my heart, with all the phone calls and the emails and the support that we're getting, that this can be an art form that everybody can afford and really enjoy. And there's so many variables of what you can do with it. So I'm going to turn the lights off real quick, and I will officially dedicate this guitar to my late brother, David Monnig. Now, it's always hard to kind of photograph these types of things or to show video of it. It just is not the same impact when you're trying to, you know, use non-filtered light in various situations. But I think you guys can see right now how awesome this turned out. And Rhino did an amazing job with the airbrush work. And the car built by Rod Emory is just second to none. The details that went into this vehicle, and I will share at a later time some of the interior shots and the undercarriage shots and the final shots of this car. But I'm happy to be a part of this project with John Oates. I'm happy to be a part of it with Rod Emory and the Concours d'Elegance and everybody that's been supporting us here at Coast Airbrush.